The shuttle docked with a muted clang, followed by the hiss of decompressing air. Through the viewport, the vast spires of the Zelari Combat Academy loomed like obsidian thorns, piercing the dying light of a red dwarf star. A place where the fiercest warriors in the galaxy trained for war, and where Earth had just sent its first delegation. 4 humans, uninvited until now. Commander Juno stepped off first, boots thudding against the obsidian floor. Her eyes swept the terminal, calm and calculating. Decades in military black ops had taught her to assess a room before she breathed too deeply. 36 alien cadets stared at them with varying shades of curiosity, amusement, and barely veiled contempt. "So," Juno muttered to no one in particular, "this is the warm galactic welcome." Behind her came Patch, lanky, jittery, and adjusting the glowing panels on his wristband for the 5th time that minute. His tool belt jangled with alien tech components that he definitely wasn't supposed to have. "Do you think they use plasma-fed power loops or crystalline emitters for their shields?" he asked aloud, mostly to himself. "I think they're wondering why you're already trying to take apart their hallway lights," said Rio, descending next with a fluid, almost dancer-like grace. His journal was already open, scribbling in smooth, looping script as he walked. "First impressions in deep space diplomacy were either amusing or edible," he read aloud with a grin. Finally, the 4th stepped off, Nova. She moved like gravity didn't quite apply to her the same way. Slower, heavier. Her pale eyes scanned the terminal, unreadable. She carried no bag, no weapons, and hadn't spoken once since their departure from Luna Station. Where others wore fitted uniforms, she wore a simple black jumpsuit. Unmarked, unassuming. To the aliens waiting, she was invisible. A footnote. A tall serpentine instructor slithered forward, flanked by guards in armor that shimmered with built-in translation code. "I am Virex, coordinator of tactical development," the being intoned, his voice crisp and serpentine. "Your presence here is an experiment. We expect little. Survive the semester and you'll have exceeded expectations." "Nice to meet you too," Juno replied. Deadpan. Virex turned to the watching cadets. "Our Earth guest will be placed in Class B-19, the same as our upper-tier candidates." A ripple of laughter passed through the crowd. Some of it gurgled. One cadet with crystalline arms actually hissed. Another clicked his mandibles in amusement. A voice boomed from the back. "Do they even know which end of a blade is the front?" A chorus of snickers followed. Juno didn't flinch. Rio smiled politely. Patch was too distracted examining a ceiling drone. Nova stood still as a statue. The humans followed Virex through a wide corridor lined with combat trophies, gleaming bone helms, cracked plasma swords, a severed cybernetic arm preserved in stasis. At the end, they reached a wide hall buzzing with alien recruits. "Your dorms. Training begins at 2nd cycle. Do not die before then. Dismissed." He vanished with a flick of his tail. They entered their quarters, which were Spartan but livable. 4 beds, metal walls, and a single viewport showing the cracked remnants of a moon outside. Patch immediately flopped onto a bunk. "Do not die before training. Sounds like encouragement to me." Juno leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "They want to break us early, provoke a fight, paint us as savages." Rio nodded thoughtfully. "A kind of psychological dance. They jab, we react. They laugh, we confirm the stereotype." Nova sat silently on the edge of her bed. Her gaze lingered out the viewport. "You good?" Rio asked gently. She blinked once. "The moon outside. It's tidal sheared. Orbit too close to gravitational instability. Patch looked up. You got all that from a glance? Nova didn't answer. She didn't need to. The next cycle began in the combat arena. Metallic bleachers surrounded a dozen sparring rings, where cadets clashed in bursts of violence. No weapons, just raw skill. A Korran, a hulking, six-limbed reptilian warrior, flung a lithe Valari across the ring like a rag doll. Savage efficiency, Patch whispered. They're definitely not using standard kinetic logic. That tail whip move is biomechanically impossible on Earth. The humans were directed to a corner ring for evaluation. A dozen aliens lined the perimeter, sneering. Which of you will begin? The instructor asked. Juno nodded at Rio. Let's start with poetry in motion. Rio stepped forward, bowed politely, and assumed a wide-legged stance. His opponent, a bulky creature with tusks, roared and charged. Rio sidestepped. Twice. 3 times. Then ducked and tapped the alien's leg with his palm. Nothing happened. Then the opponent's knee buckled. He stumbled, confused. Targeted nerve misdirection, Rio said afterward. My mother was a ballet therapist. The next fight went to Patch. He lost. Spectacularly. But while unconscious, his wristband captured the opponent's movement patterns in full detail. Worth it, he mumbled through a swollen lip. Juno took down her opponent with sharp military precision. Then all eyes turned to Nova. She didn't move. The instructor waited. Well? Nova tilted her head. No need. The instructor frowned. You forfeit? No, she said. I simply observe. Laughter erupted from the surrounding cadets. One of them, a towering brute with plated arms and razor teeth, jeered. That one's already broken. Or defective, said another. Nova looked at them. Not hostile, just watching. Juno raised an eyebrow. Nova, you sure you don't want to warm up? No, she said, simply. And that was that. That evening, as lights dimmed in the dorm, Patch sat tinkering with a disassembled alien drone. Rio wrote quietly. Juno cleaned a compact blade. Nova stood at the viewport, unmoving. She's strange, Patch muttered. She's watching, Rio replied, like she's waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting for what? Rio shrugged. Maybe for everyone else to make the first mistake. Juno looked up, her tone thoughtful. Let them laugh. The galaxy doesn't know what we're capable of yet. Outside, the shattered moon turned slowly, broken and still dangerous. Nova didn't blink. Combat training at the Zalari Academy was not designed to build strength. It was designed to reveal weaknesses. Every morning began with gut-rattling gravity shifts, followed by zero-atmosphere maneuvers, then full-contact engagements in hostile terrain simulations. Failure wasn't penalized. It was observed, catalogued, and judged. The humans, predictably, became the Academy's favorite source of entertainment. During a team skirmish in a sulfur storm, Rio emerged from the haze, carrying his unconscious opponent on his back. Did you win? Juno asked over the comms. I debated him into submission, Rio answered, coughing. You what? He got confused when I asked if he felt truly fulfilled by violence. Existential crisis. Then he tripped over a rock. Effective, Juno muttered. Patch fared worse. The sim had begun as a stealth infiltration, but ended with Patch falling into a pit he had dug himself as a trap. They weren't supposed to flank me from the air, he groaned as 2 snickering Trovax cadets hauled him out. You dug a hole on a digital platform, Juno said, staring. I enhanced the environment. by falling into it. Nova, as always, did not participate in the sims. She sat on the observation deck, perfectly still, absorbing everything. Every tactic, every misstep, every glance. The instructors began calling her Statue. Cadets took bets on whether she was mute. One even claimed she was a malfunctioning android. That changed on day 9. The Tangle Drill was a chaotic, AI-randomized exercise involving terrain shifts, time dilation bubbles, and non-lethal combat droids programmed to adapt mid-fight. Every cadet had to survive 5 minutes inside the zone. Juno lasted 6 and came out bruised but grinning. I made friends with the fire-spitting bot, she told Patch. Named it Carl. Rio lasted 4.5. I composed a haiku while falling off a cliff. That counts for something. Patch didn't last 1. What kind of bot vomits acid? He yelled as he ran from the exit, clutching his steaming boots. Nova watched, then stood. Gasps followed as she stepped into the tangle. The arena adjusted. Droids activated. Terrain buckled. But Nova didn't move. She simply stood in the center of the chaos as the world warped and roared around her. A droid leapt and froze, mid-air, then crashed to the ground, systems fried. Another circled her, then jerked violently, its limbs locking before shutting down. Within seconds, the remaining units simply collapsed. The sim AI ended the exercise. Silence. Even the instructors looked baffled. She hacked the system, one muttered. No, Virex corrected, reviewing data. She used passive interference, subsonic resonance keyed to the arena's sensor grid. Disrupted feedback loops. It's not combat. It's control. Nova walked out without comment, returning to her seat. Later, in the dorm, the silence was heavy. Patch finally asked, So, you're a combat engineer? No, she replied. I just understand things differently. Define differently, Juno said. Nova looked at her. I watch long enough to find the fault. Then I apply pressure. Rio smiled. Remind me never to upset you. 3 days later, the humans were summoned to the upper arena. It was unusual. Students weren't usually called during off-cycle hours. When they arrived, hundreds of cadets lined the stands, buzzing with anticipation. Standing in the center ring was Thar'kek of the Korran, 7 feet of muscle. Muscle, claws, and ceremonial scars. He was the Academy's reigning sparring champion, undefeated in 30 bouts. He pointed at Nova. I challenge the mute shadow, he roared. If she is Earth's pride, then show it. Nova blinked slowly. I'm not Earth's pride. Juno stepped forward. She doesn't have to do this. She will, Virex said, appearing behind them. The challenge is recorded. To refuse is to concede. Patch whispered, He'll kill her. Rio, wide-eyed, murmured, Unless she finds the fault. Nova stepped into the ring. Thar'kek grinned, claws scraping the floor. I'll break you open like a rations pod. Nova didn't respond. The bell chimed. Thar'kek charged. Outside the ring, time slowed. Every cadet watched, expecting blood, but Nova didn't move. She didn't flinch. As Thar'kek crossed the ring's inner circle, his steps staggered. His balance shifted. Then, mid-lunge, he collapsed face first, limbs twitching uncontrollably. Gasps erupted. The instructors rushed the ring. Thar'kek's vitals were stable, disoriented but unharmed. Playback footage looped across the arena screens. There it was. Nova had never touched him. Instead, Microscopic movements in her breathing had triggered a frequency, directed at his species' inner ear, known for its hypersensitivity. At the same moment, her boots activated a barely detectable electromagnetic pulse keyed to the arena's floor sensors, rerouting a maintenance drone's defense subroutine to overload his neuro armor. The crowd stared in stunned silence. Nova turned, calm as ever. "It's not about moving," she said. "It's about understanding where to press." Back in the dorm, no one spoke for a long time. Then Patch said reverently, "You broke the top cadet with breathing." Rio scribbled furiously. Juno sat down across from Nova. "You've been analyzing us all since day one." Nova nodded once. "We're not built like them. We don't win on strength. We win by seeing what no one else notices." A message pinged in Juno's comband. She checked it. "New orders," she said quietly. "We've been approved for the Crucible path." Patch choked. "That's the real war front, where graduates die." Juno stood. Nova looked at her. "We're ready." Rio smiled. "Let the galaxy watch." The Crucible path wasn't just a war zone. It was a proving ground, a galactic tournament of sorts where the best of the best faced off in live combat, pushed to the brink of their limits by alien intelligence and hostile conditions. Juno didn't like the idea, but it was the only way to prove humanity's worth in the galaxy, and it was only a matter of time before they got the call. The humans had just earned a spot at the table, and they would be forced to sit through the full meal. As dawn broke over the Academy's synthetic horizon, the humans were led to the Arena of Stars, a floating coliseum suspended in zero gravity. Shimmering holographic skies rotated above, and the distant rumble of combat echoed from below. The Crucible path was an open invitation to any species who could survive its trials. Not a race. Not a game. A blood sport. But for the humans, it wasn't just survival. It was an opportunity to show the galaxy what Earth could truly do. Nova stood silently in the corner, her arms folded, her gaze drifting across the open arena. The others paced, jittery with nerves, trying to disguise their concern. Juno was deep in conversation with a Zalari instructor, her brow furrowed in determination. Patch was halfway through disassembling and reassembling his tech band in a frustrated blur. Rio, as usual, was scribbling something in his journal, his fingers shaking only slightly as he worked. "What do you think?" Rio asked quietly, glancing up at Nova. Nova didn't answer right away. Her eyes were locked on the massive holographic screen in the middle of the arena that displayed the tournament rules. But she wasn't reading it. She was studying the environment, like she always did. Calculating, waiting. "They're not used to fighting without a plan," she said finally. "That's their mistake." Sure, but do you have a plan for this?" Patch asked, finally managing to snap his band back into place, then looking nervously at her. "Stay out of the way, and let me think." Nova's voice was quiet but sharp. "You're gonna need a little more than that for this," Juno said, joining them with a grim smile. "It's a no-holds-barred match. Your opponent's one of the fiercest Korran warriors in the galaxy." "Thar'kek," Rio murmured, his eyes wide. Juno nodded. "He's the one who challenged you. One-on-one. The whole arena's going to be watching. He's betting on a quick win. Don't give him that satisfaction." Nova raised her head, her gaze calm but piercing. I don't plan on fighting him the way he expects. He's predictable. Before anyone could respond, the loudspeaker blared. Nova of Earth, Thar'kek of Korran, Arena 3. Now! The humans walked in silence to the ring, the hum of the arena beneath their feet adding to the oppressive atmosphere. The crowd was a roar of alien voices, mostly jeers and mockery. The Korran was a legend, a hulking presence on the field. Thar'kek, armoured in jagged spiked plating, sneered down at Nova as she approached. The duel was about to begin. The bell chimed once, twice, and still Nova didn't move. Thar'kek let out a guttural laugh. Do you think standing there will win you this fight, human? His voice echoed across the arena. Nova didn't flinch. Without warning, Thar'kek charged, his massive form moving like a blur, claws extended, roaring with fury. He swung a crushing blow with his armoured arm, aiming directly for her head. At the last possible second, Nova dropped to the ground with barely a shift in her weight, avoiding the strike with the precision of a dancer. Thar'kek's blow missed completely, slamming into the arena floor with a thunderous impact. The crowd gasped. Thar'kek snarled, furious. He swung again, faster this time, determined to crush her into the ground. But Nova was already moving, not physically, but mentally. She was not avoiding his strikes as much as she was guiding them, pushing him into a rhythm. Each swing was anticipated, each movement controlled. Thar'kek's momentum built up. He was too eager, too overconfident, and that's exactly what Nova wanted. As he swung a third time, his claws scraping through empty air, Nova took a small, precise step back. Then she bent slightly at the waist. In that single movement, she shifted the arena's magnetic field, a subtle hack embedded in her boots during the previous training simulation. It sent a faint pulse of energy through the arena's sensors, causing Thar'kek's balance to falter. He crashed to the ground in a heap. The crowd went dead silent. The Korran warrior, enraged, howled in fury and scrambled to his feet. He lunged again, but this time his instincts betrayed him. The humans were unpredictable. They didn't fight by the rules. They didn't fight with brute strength. They fought with their minds. Thar'kek swung with everything he had, an overhead strike that could have split any normal cadet in half. But as his claws descended, Nova turned, slowly, fluidly, like water running down a hill. She sidestepped his attack, timed perfectly to the millisecond. Her hand went out, not to strike, but to guide. The sudden force of her palm against his chest wasn't strength. It was leverage, the kind only humans could learn to use so effectively. Thar'kek's massive body flew backward, propelled by the force of his own missed attack. His armor cracked on impact with the arena's outer wall. Silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. Not even the instructor dared to comment. Nova stood there, still as stone, her breath steady. Then, slowly, Thar'kek got to his feet. His eyes burned with fury, but something had shifted. In that moment, he knew. He was facing something he couldn't defeat with just strength. Something else entirely. The bell rang once, then twice. The duel was over. Thar'kek dropped to one knee, His pride shattered, but his body intact. The crowd's roar was deafening, half in disbelief, half in admiration. The aliens had expected an execution. What they got was the unthinkable. Back in the dorms, Patch was the first to break the silence. She didn't need to, Juno interrupted, her voice filled with a rare admiration. She's playing a different game, Rio whispered, his eyes wide. Nova stood at the window again, gazing out at the stars. The fault is always there, she said, her voice soft but firm. It's just a matter of finding it. The crucible path was over. The final trials had concluded and the humans were standing in the Academy's central hall, surrounded by hundreds of cadets, their eyes filled with a mixture of respect, confusion, and awe. The Zellery instructors, who had watched every match, every twist of fate, now stood with an unspoken recognition in their gazes. Juno's heart still pounded in her chest, but there was no time to savor the victory. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about something more, something deeper. Virex approached them, his long, elegant form gliding across the room. His eyes narrowed as he surveyed the humans. His tone was calm, but there was an undertone of respect. Nova of Earth, you have exceeded expectations. He paused, watching her with a calculating gaze. You have done what no one else here could. Nova looked up at him, her expression serene as always. I don't need your approval, Virex. I'm here for Earth. A flicker of something, perhaps curiosity or admiration, flashed in his eyes, but it was gone in an instant. He turned to Juno. Commander Juno, it seems the humans have earned their place in the galaxy. There's nothing more we can teach you here. Juno's eyes softened for a moment. We didn't come here for your approval either, but I'll take it. Nevertheless, Virex said, you are now ready to enter the wider galactic stage. The room fell silent. The weight of those words settled like a thick fog. The humans had not just proven themselves in combat. They had shown the galaxy that they were adaptable, that they could survive in a hostile universe by understanding what no one else could, by learning how to think differently. How long until we leave? Rio asked, his voice suddenly heavy. Soon, Virex said. The Council of Nations has requested a meeting with Earth's delegation. You will speak on behalf of humanity. Patch looked up, eyes wide with panic. Wait, what? You mean us? Speak at a council meeting? Are you kidding me? Juno smirked. It's what we've been working toward all this time, Patch. Get used to it. Patch flailed his arms. I wasn't prepared for intergalactic politics. None of us were, Juno replied, but we're here now. The humans were given at once access to a transport vessel that would take them to the council station, a colossal space city floating in the heart of a nebula, surrounded by representatives from over 100 species. The journey was quiet at first, each of them processing the weight of what they had just achieved. As they prepared to land, Rio handed Nova a small data pad. I've been working on something, he said, his voice quieter than usual. It's a speech. A speech? Nova asked. Rio nodded. For the council. It's something I thought you might want to say. Nova took the pad and glanced over the words. They weren't long. They weren't grandiose. They were simple, honest. Humanity is not the strongest, nor the fastest. We are not born to wield weapons or to crush our enemies with brute force. We are not the most technologically advanced or the most gifted. But what we have, what sets us apart from every other species you've encountered, is our ability to adapt. We do not see the universe as something to dominate, but as something to understand, to grow with. We do not give up in the face of a challenge. We face it with creativity, with determination, and with the belief that no matter the odds, we will find a way forward. We come not as conquerors, but as partners. The future is not about survival of the strongest. It is about survival through cooperation and understanding. Let us show you what we can do together. Let us show you the true strength of humanity. Nova didn't respond immediately. She stared at the pad for a long time, her fingers lightly grazing the screen. Then, finally, she handed it back to Rio. "It's perfect," she said softly. "I will speak." The Council of Nations was everything they had heard about, and then some. The station was an awe-inspiring sight. Towering spires of glass, alien architecture that seemed to defy physics, and holographic banners displaying the symbols of the various species. The floor was alive with representatives from dozens of planets, exchanging ideas, arguing, laughing, and occasionally shouting across the Great Hall. When the humans entered, the room fell silent. All eyes were on them. The representatives of countless species leaned forward in their seats, waiting for Earth's delegation to speak. The Supreme Speaker, a massive creature of shifting translucent scales, motioned for silence. He looked down at Juno and the humans. Earth's voice. "What does your planet seek from this gathering?" Juno stepped forward, taking the lead. But before she could speak, she turned to Nova. The weight of the moment was not lost on her. Nova, the quiet one, the observer, the strategist, had earned this moment. This was her time. Nova stepped forward, her pale eyes meeting those of the council. She stood tall, silent for a heartbeat. Then she spoke, her voice clear and unwavering. "Humanity does not seek dominance," she said, her voice resonating in the hall. "We seek to understand, to build, and to grow alongside the galaxy. To work together, not as masters and servants, but as equals. We are not perfect, but we are adaptable. We learn from our mistakes, and we learn from you." The room was dead silent. "We come not to conquer," she continued, her words steady and sure, "but to offer something new. We come to show you that strength lies in understanding, to show you that in every corner of the universe there is always a way forward." Nova paused, letting the words sink in. Then she said the final words. "Let humanity's legacy be one of cooperation, of growth, and of change." The hall erupted into applause. The council had listened. The galaxy had been shown the true strength of humanity.